I guess what I would have liked to see as an offset, so we're not actually increasing the overall impact of it. So if there's extra revenue raised, then surely that money could then go back in a discounted amount, so the net result's the same for fairness.
I guess if it's fairness, the people involved or the businesses that have taken advantage of this particular land-rich model, it could be argued that they've received a tax benefit for many years up until now. Other states have moved to this model, the new one that we're moving to, and that revenue will be taken to the budget bottom line to assist us to fund the ever-increasing costs of health, policing and education in our community. I mean, health costs alone, Anthony, are running at about 9 to 11% depending on the year. I came to office, health we were spending 2.2 billion. 8.5 years later, 4.5 billion. It's a 111% increase in 8 years. It's just compounding as this
bracket creep with the age.
And all the ageing. I mean, what I fear, and this could be interesting for the property market, is I think we're starting to accelerate quicker in terms of our ageing of our population. We seem to be getting these pressures a little quicker than we perhaps thought we might have otherwise have got.
Now, Kevin, this has actually been quite a nice, civilised discussion.
Yeah.
So let's take the gloves off a little bit.
Sure.
We talk about fairness and that. What would you say would be fair about having virtually the highest tax regime in property in the nation?
Well, I wouldn't say we have the highest, Anthony. I think you'll find Victoria in most categories has a higher stamp duty than we do. But, in an ideal world, you wouldn't tax property to the extent that we do. It is an inherited system that effectively came from the British system of taxation, where in centuries ago, the only thing governments had available to tax were the property of landholders. In a less sophisticated economy and taxation system. That has stuck through us through our 200 years of being a country here. And as Ken Henry in the Henry Review has said, is that, I think his words were, I know what he said to me in meetings, is that he is less than flattering when it comes to our over-reliance on property taxes. My point as a state treasurer and all the other state treasurers is, in the absence of another equal source of revenue, we're stuck with the old system because we need that revenue to maintain our hospitals, our schools and our policing.
Well, the difference though is pretty profound, which is why there's so many developers and particularly the commercial guys who are very uptight and, in their words, leaving the state. Now, I don't know whether that's real or whether that's a threat, but you'd know better than I. But on a stamp duty on a property for a comparison, based on a $300,000 purchase, in Queensland was $8,975. South Australia is $11,330. What's it
in Victoria?
Victoria's a little higher.
Oh, what is it in Victoria?
$13,660.
So they're $2,000 dearer than us. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, now, if I'm halfway between Victoria and Queensland, Anthony, I'm probably pitched about where we need to be.
So, what are the chances of some relief there?
Not in the forthcoming future. I mean, I don't believe, as much as certainly larger developers say that, they're taking their capital to other states. Developers will take their capital to other states because it's a good investment decision. It's a good balancing of their property portfolio. I don't believe that too many developers have taken their money out of Adelaide, notwithstanding the cries I've got from some people. In fact, we're seeing developers from the east, people like Lang Walker, for example, developing 10,000 lots in the north of our city. People developing in Mount Barker and other parts of Adelaide. Great confidence in the market here in South Australia. They don't seem to be at all troubled by what is a normal function of government, that is to apply stamp duty.
Thank you for that. We'll agree to disagree on this, but now I want to get to the good stuff.
Okay.
Defence.
Yes.
Andrew Fletcher has given us an outline. We've got 30, 40 years sort of investment. The government has actually done some amazingly positive initiatives. It's happening now. Talk to me very quickly about the battalion arriving and how you feel about defence,
yep.
How healthy the mining industry is, and then what your personal view is in terms of people wanting to invest here in South Australia?
Well, firstly, through Commonwealth decisions, but through an incredible amount of work done by our government, we have developed, in essence, a whole new industrial sector here in South Australia. We had it before, but nothing to the size of what it is today and will be into the future. 12 new submarines. Adelaide Tech Port at Osborne will be the consolidation point for all of the nation's sophisticated air warfare capability. That'll be our naval ships that have missiles and the technology, the radar systems, the whole electronic gambit that you have in vessels today. They'll all be done here in Adelaide. That's going to create thousands of jobs. 12 new submarines. That's $75 billion worth of construction and through-life support over the next 40 years. Thousands of highly paid technicians coming into our state. In the north of our city, we have a battalion. The property market, I assume, is very, very strong in the north, as you've got soldiers en masse coming into Adelaide.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
You've got the mining sector, where you've got the supplying companies, the services sector, establishing a lot of warehousing and factory capability in the northern suburbs. And my view is, when it comes to the army, and I can't predict this, but I'm reasonably confident it will happen over time, we'll get a lot more soldiers into the north. The super base at Edinburgh will be such an appealing asset for the army, I should say, and the Air Force, that I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see another battalion in a decade or two's time, and before then a lot of extra units. Mining, gangbusters.
So even with all of the disruption with feds?
The mining tax issue was always a distraction, and those things have a way of sorting themselves out. Olympic Dam will go ahead. It's 35% of the world's known resource of uranium. I read on the weekend the analysts have been told by BHP alone that the copper asset there is largely, it could be larger than what they've got in Escondida in Chile, which is currently the largest open cut mine in the world. It is a bonanza of mineral wealth that BHP will start exploiting and developing, I think, in the course of the next 12 or 18 months. We've got all these other mines coming on. We've got iron ore in the Eyre Peninsula. We've got a lot of gold. We've got a lot of nickel, a lot of copper. Mineral sands. I mean, we've got an incredible diversity of that. But lastly, what I'd like to say is that Paul Holloway, our planning minister, will be releasing with the Premier in the next few months what is an incredibly detailed document that maps out the future for the development of Adelaide. Now, our previous
pretty serious,
enormous amount of work being put in by not just by government, by industry. Now, our last 30-year plan, it struck me as quite stunning that what was predicted 30 years ago in our planning strategy largely has followed.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got to say, there's not a lot of government reports where
that happens.
It actually is bang on the money in terms of delivering what it said. We're working through our next 30-year plan. I can't give much away except to say what we can do with some degree of certainty is predict the number of people that will grow. I mean, it's not a difficult methodology to work out how many people will be here over the next 30 years. We can look at the existing boundaries, and you can look at what the available land space is for new construction, the typical front yard, backyard, broad acre, half acre, whatever the hectare is of what we're used to. But the telling issue will be is that we have to embrace density in this city. We have to embrace smaller land sizes. And with the electrification of our entire city rail network, the development of what we're calling our transport-orientated development zones, and embracing density along our main arterial roads, we can house the population expansion of the next 30 years. It'll be a different looking Adelaide, it'll be a more exciting looking Adelaide, and it will mean that we can build and have people living where we've got infrastructure already in place.